Good afternoon, everyone. So we finished with the seafloor spreading yesterday. I'm quickly revising the seafloor spreading. Seafloor spreading theory says that the oceanic crust is not constant. Why it is not constant? Because it is continuously created and destroyed. So it is created along a point which is known as mid-oceanic ridges. And this mid-oceanic ridges experiences fissure kind of eruption. क्यों fissure type of eruption? Because जो eruption है that is silent and it comes out through a crack and we call that crack as an fissure. Then the second part of this theory says that as the plates move away from each other or as the oceanic crust moves away from each other, the new mid-oceanic ridges are created at the boundary जहाँ पे they are moving while the old oceanic ridges are destroyed and they become a part of an oceanic crust. Now this occurs over a period of time and इसीलिए the rocks में जो metallic minerals है they keep on changing their direction. That means we should know one simple thing जो मैं plate tectonics के बाद बताऊंगा. I'm just giving you an introduction अभी that our magnetic field is not constant. Our magnetic field, the earth का magnetic field keeps on changing. Now suppose if this is the direction of a magnetic field north and south. When the oceanic crust comes out, when the magma comes out, it consists of some minerals which are metallic, which are non-metallic. Of the metallic minerals, when they will solidify, when they will form rock, the metals will be aligned in the direction of magnetic field, north-south. Now after some years, the magnetic field may become this way. And thus, जब वो metallic minerals form होंगे, when they will solidify in the direction of the prevailing magnetic field, existing magnetic field. Now suppose if the magnetic field becomes this way, so the metallic minerals will solidify in this direction, in the prevailing magnetic field. So this gives us some idea कि how the magnetic field has changed, and when we study this magnetic field that has changed by studying the rocks in which they are aligned, we call that field as paleomagnetism. Paleo means ancient magnetism. Now studying the paleomagnetism, what we realize कि the part of the oceanic crust that is an equal distance away from the mid-oceanic ridge. These two mountains which are very very far away, but they have same magnetic field or they have the same kind of magnetic alignment. Q because they were both formed during the same time. These two mountains which are more nearer, they will have the same kind of an magnetic alignment. And जो recently formed हुआ, they will have magnetic alignment of the recent period. So when we say the magnetic alignment of the recent period, that means they are pointing to the present magnetic north and present magnetic south. So this is one part here, that is the paleomagnetism. Now the second thing that Harry Hess says that as the ocean floor expands, this ocean floor will go at the continental boundaries, and at the point where the continents and the ocean touch each other, the oceanic crust being denser, it will go below, and it will go below forming a trench, because the point where that goes below एक trench जैसा shape होगा, and that is why we call them as the oceanic trenches. So this in geography is known as subduction zones. So the oceanic crust is destroyed along the subduction zone. It will go deep inside the mantle, and because of the heat it will melt, and thus it will form a magma. And this process has been going on for centuries, and that is why we have seen in the evidence that the oceanic crust is much younger as compared to the continental crust. So idea of the continental drift, that is the continents are moving, the idea of the sea floor spreading, that is by the Harry Hess, and the idea of convectional currents, that is what is the reason for the movement. We now know they are the convectional currents. You have seen yesterday in the PPT how much heated is the interior of the earth and how stronger are the convectional currents. So they can obviously move the very thin part, जिसको मैंने ढक्कन जैसा example लिया, very thin part of the earth, what we will call them as the crust. So this part of the earth is crust is moved, but now recent studies have come and we have come to a conclusion that actually it is not the continent, neither the ocean that is moving. What is moving is the plates. So what are these plates? And क्या होता है when the plates are moving? When the plates are moving, there are changes that occur in the plates, and therefore the theory is known as plate tectonics. Tectonics is the changes that will occur in the plates due to the movement. Now this changes, tectonics is changes or deformation that occur in the plates. Now these changes will occur where? All these changes will occur, नीचे ही रख दो. All these changes will occur at a boundary. Where at a boundary? Boundary where the plates are meeting each other or the plates are going away from each other. But well, first we'll say what is the plates. So what are the plates? These are the solid slabs made up of lithosphere. What is happening to these solid slabs? These solid slabs which are made up of the lithosphere, they slide or glide on plastic asthenosphere. Why do they slide or glide? They slide or glide due to convectional currents. So जो heat है interior of the earth, convectional currents, they cause the movement of the plates. Now we know the earth is like an egg, crust, mantle and core, 3 different parts. Now just imagine that earth is not just an egg, it is an boiled egg which has to be broken. Broken means कोई भी egg खाने से पहले आप छिलका तोड़ते हो. So over the period of time that वो छिलके के ऊपर cracks होते हैं, right? So the earth is like this, that is the crust of the earth is broken in the cracks, and these cracks are known as plates. Why they are broken in the cracks? Because the part where the oceanic crust is broken, why it is broken? Yesterday's sea floor spreading. So जहाँ पे the oceanic crust is broken, it has resulted into the formation of cracks. So actually the earth, अगर हमने crust, mantle, core किया, so this earth, if we are taking the top view of the earth is broken into different slabs. And this is the boundary of one slab, and we will call each of the slabs as the plates. Now when the plates are there, these plates will come near each other, उसका एक effect होगा. And we will call, because they come near each other, as the convergent plate boundary. Some plates will move away from each other, and we will call them as the divergent plate boundary. Some plates will slide across each other. They will neither come near each other, they will neither go nor go away from each other, they will just touch and rub each other, and we will call them as the conservative plate boundary. Conservative or the transform plate boundary, because there is no convergence, no divergence. And uska, each and every plate has uska effect. And this plate tectonic theory is giving an answer to all the geographical phenomena that is occurring in the world. With the help of plate tectonic theory, you can predict earthquakes, you can know which are the zones of earthquakes, which are the zones of volcanoes, कहाँ पे सुनामी आने के चांसेस ज़्यादा है, कहाँ पे लैंडस्लाइड के चांसेस ज़्यादा है, and this is used for planning in human geography, yeah, urban planning, rural planning and the planning. So the practical implication of the plate tectonic theory is you should know the plate tectonic theory in case if you go into the planning. And generally हमारे इंडिया में district collector is the head of district level planning, and therefore the idea of the plate tectonics, idea of the movement of the plates, कितनी stability होने वाली है, कितनी instability होने वाली है, this is all required. Because अगर disaster से बचना है, then I told you yesterday what is the most important thing? Early warning and rehabilitation is the most important thing. That is why you must be going through the newspaper that is some states in India have started what is known as green highways. Green highways, ambulance hai, so every traffic is taken to the side, and thus we have seen many lives being saved. The best example is in the state of in the Latur region of Maharashtra. Within 40 minutes that heart was transplanted because heart ka life tha, and that is what is the green highway wala region. So this is one example of an urban planning. So all these regions कि अभी उत्तराखंड में डैम्स बनानी चाहिए या नहीं, that we can understand with the help of plate tectonics. Whether we should have the hotel industry there or whether we should promote it as an ecotourism ka belt, we will understand with the help of plate tectonics. Because if you do not understand the urban planning, Uttarakhand जैसा disaster may occur anytime. So anytime, and सिर्फ disaster से not only just there is a loss of life, सबसे बड़ा problem होता है economic loss. Economic loss, and with the economic loss, our country is sent backwards. Remember, in this today's world, it is neither the political power, neither the administrative power, the real power is economic power. You can see this even in, once you go to the services also, it is really the businessman who will control the power in the name of politicians. And so you will realize this over the period of time. So it has to be the economic power, and you will have to relate everything with the practical implication. हम ये क्यों है ये things हमारे syllabus में, why it is there. So when I say about the businessman, it is not about the medium businessman, it is about the major industrialist. So see, even in the city like Delhi, जहाँ पे we know there is an area known as Uttam Nagar. Uttam Nagar में there is a 5-lane का road, and on that lane का road most of the shops are there, wholesale का shops, and on that 5-lane का road there are too many fruit vendors, and इसीलिए बहुत ज़्यादा traffic jam होता है. A new DCP comes in an area, 5 दिन में वो पूरा ट्रैफिक क्लियर कर देता है, पीपल अपलॉड, बट छठे दिन उसकी ट्रांसफ़र हो जाती है आउटर दिल्ली डिस्ट्रिक्ट में. वाई? दैट इज़ ही हैज़ कॉस्ट सम ऑफ एन इकोनॉमिक लॉसेस. एंड पॉलिटिशियंस के लिए एक एक वोट मैटर करता है. वो ये नहीं देखते कि रॉकेट साइंटिस्ट का वोट है तो ज़्यादा उसके वोट होंगे और लेबरर का वोट है तो उसका कम ये है, ऐसा नहीं है. So this is an example which I was talking, but let us come back to the plates and the plate tectonic theory. So you can take down the definition of plates. The plates are the solid lithospheric blocks. Plates are solid lithospheric blocks. And you know what is the lithosphere matlab? Lithosphere means crust and the uppermost mantle. Upper crust nahi, crust and the uppermost mantle, known as plates. The earth's crust and the mantle, is broken. Plates are the solid lithospheric slabs or blocks. The earth's crust and the mantle are divided into several plates, and some of these plates are an example of major plates, while some are minor plates. Some of the plates are major plates, some are minor plates. A plate can be made up of oceanic crust. A plate can be made up of oceanic crust in the bracket, oceanic plate, continental crust, continental plate, or both oceanic and the continental crust. Both oceanic and the continental crust. Both oceanic and continental crust. अब I'm asking you, if the दो plates है, oceanic plate and the continental plate, किसकी density ज़्यादा है? Oceanic plate. So in case they are both meeting, which plate is going to go below? Oceanic plate is going to go below. There is another plate. Both the plates are mixture of both oceanic and continental plate, but एक प्लेट में ओशियनिक क्रस्ट इज मोर एंड दूसरे प्लेट में कॉन्टिनेंटल क्रस्ट इज मोर. सो किसकी डेंसिटी ज़्यादा होगी? जिसमें ओशियनिक क्रस्ट इज मोर, एंड दस विच प्लेट इज गोइंग टू गो बिलो देन? जिसमें ओशियनिक क्रस्ट ज़्यादा है. सो टेक डाउन द नेक्स्ट स्टेटमेंट. मोस्ट ऑफ द प्लेट्स are an example of a mixture of both, except Pacific plate, which is totally oceanic plate, except Pacific plate, which is totally an oceanic plate. Full stop. Oceanic plate, totally oceanic plate. Full stop. The Eurasian plate is largely continental plate. Is largely a continental plate. इसका मतलब क्या है? It is mostly continental, but there is some oceanic plate here, and these are your questions in the preliminary examination. Either Pacific plate is totally continental, oceanic plate, true or false? Yes. Next statement आएगा, the Pacific plate is the Eurasian plate is wholly or totally continental plate, true or false? No. Little bit part of it is the oceanic part. The major plates in the world are open page number 119 कल वाला ही, and you will see the major plates of the world. Those who are carrying some other atlas, this is the page. So you can see the major plates in the world. सबसे पहले can you see the North American plate properly दिया है? There is a North American plate, because अभी पता लगता है कि ज़रूरी नहीं that continents are moving. What are actually moving? Plates. And why we call them plates? Because this plate which is moving consists of continent as well as oceanic part. और ये क्यों टूट रहा है? You know this yesterday, because oceanic crust is much thinner as compared to the continental crust. So the major plates are North American, South American, African, Eurasian, Indo-Australian plate, उसके बाद Antarctic plate and the Pacific plate. So you take down, the major plates are North American. Keep that map open. North American क्या है? Totally या mixed है. सिर्फ इतना याद रखना, it is a mixture of the Pacific oceanic plate and the continental plate. North American plate. Next, South American plate. Third, Pacific plate. Can I say the largest plate in the world and totally oceanic? Fourth, African plate. Fifth, Eurasian plate or Asian plate. Eurasian plate and the Asian plate, and you can see in the map ki how the Eurasian plate at the boundary is an example of an oceanic plate. कुछ part है उसका which is an part of oceanic crust. Eurasian plate जापान के पास देखना, that is a boundary line of Eurasian plate. So कौन सा है, this part of Eurasian plate is an example of an oceanic plate. This part of Eurasian plate is an example of an oceanic plate. And next, Indo-Australian plate. Indo-Australian plate. Can I say Indo-Australian plate? Some part is oceanic, some part is continental. But एक देखोगे, you will see continent से सिर्फ उसके edge में, most of the part उसका is oceanic. इंडिया के नीचे इट इज ओशियनिक एंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया के बाद में पहले भी इट इज ओशियनिक इन नेचर. बाकी मोस्ट ऑफ ओनली एट द बाउंड्रीज इट इज कॉन्टिनेंट. वाइल सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर प्रीलिम्स इज देयर आर सम ऑफ द माइनर प्लेट्स. बहुत सारे माइनर प्लेट्स है, विल बी डूइंग ओनली सम ऑफ द प्लेट्स एंड उसका इफेक्ट आपको पता होना चाहिए फॉर द प्रिलिमिनरी एग्जामिनेशन. सम ऑफ द इंपॉर्टेंट माइनर प्लेट्स आर mixed. Antarctic is mixed. Yeah, Antarctic is also a major plate. Some of the minor plates are, look in the map of South America. सबसे पहले प्लेट आपको दिखेगी what is known as a Nazca plate. मिला Nazca plate? And Nazca plate and South American plate के बीच में can I say is the Andes mountain? So the first is the Nazca plate, responsible for Andes, responsible for Andes. So if you remember the first lecture, we had seen कि most of the mountains in the world are along the coast, except for Himalayas. So one is the Nazca plate, that is the Andes, responsible for Andes. Second is उसके ऊपर कोकोस प्लेट. Why is it responsible? इसके ऊपर एक मूवी भी बनी है. What? San Andreas fault system. You have seen this movie regarding the earthquakes. It is one of the most powerful earthquake region in the world. So that is the San Andreas fault system. So you can take down Cocos plate associated with the San Andreas fault system. उसके ऊपर फेमस मूवी है रिगार्डिंग द अर्थक्वेक. वेरी पावरफुल अर्थक्वेक कम्स इन दिस रीजन. बाकी कुछ नहीं, सिर्फ इतना याद रखना, सैन एंड्रियास फॉल्ट सिस्टम is responsible for the San Andreas fault system. Mixed. San Andreas fault system. Antarctic इतना important भी नहीं है. Can you see वहाँ पे California is breaking from mainland USA? That is because the San Andreas, ये जो कोकोस प्लेट है ये ऊपर की तरफ जा रही है. दिस इज एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ एन ट्रांसफॉर्म फॉल्ट. आगे जाके इन फ्यूचर दिस पार्ट ऑफ कैलिफोर्निया विल ब्रेक फ्रॉम द मेनलैंड नॉर्थ अमेरिका, एंड जब भी ये प्लेट हिलेगी तो ऑब्वियसली वी विल फील देयर विल बी अर्थक्वेक्स. व्हेन आई डोंट नो. नॉर्थ अमेरिका जब हम बनाते हैं, we make California like this. Why is this California breaking from? Because the Cocos plate is going to the north and South American plate is going in different directions. So this is an example of a transform boundary. Yes, Juan de Fuca plate से start होता है mostly, but Cocos plate is the most dominant here. Then the third plate what she is mentioning is the Juan de Fuca plate. कोकोस प्लेट के ऊपर इज द जुआन दे फुका प्लेट. जुआन दे फुका प्लेट माइनर प्लेट है. वी विल सी कि दिस इज वन ऑफ द रीजन जहाँ पे वी हैव द फेमस हॉट स्प्रिंग्स एंड गीजर्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. for what is known as an Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone National Park, you have seen, every one of you have seen, if you have seen Jurassic Park Part 1, that movie. That movie was shot in the Yellowstone National Park. जुआन दे फुका प्लेट, क्या खासियत है येलोस्टोन नेशनल पार्क की? इट इज फेमस फॉर हॉट स्प्रिंग्स एंड गीजर्स. येलोस्टोन नेशनल पार्क याद नहीं रखना है, या क्या याद रखना है? जुआन दे फुका प्लेट. नेक्स्ट इज द अरेबियन प्लेट. कैन यू सी द अरेबियन प्लेट? वेस्ट एशिया में अरेबियन प्लेट. एंड Arabian plate was a new discovery. पहले पता नहीं था there is an Arabian plate. Now we know that there is an Arabian plate, and therefore we can say we now know why the Arabian plate का boundary in India is breaking Gujarat into two parts, and we call this as an Bhuj fault system. That is it is famous for the earthquakes. That is the Arabian plate. It is responsible for Bhuj earthquakes. ये fault है which comes right up to the Gujarat. What is a fault, etc. in the next lectures. Then we have one famous plate that is known as Philippines plate. मिला फिलीपींस प्लेट? एंड फिलीपींस प्लेट आगे जाके हम देखेंगे दैट द फिलीपींस प्लेट एंड द पैसिफिक प्लेट आर मीटिंग, एंड देन कौन सा डेंसर होगा, पैसिफिक या फिलीपींस? कौन सा बड़ा है? Pacific plate is bigger. So that Pacific plate goes so deep inside, that fault is known as Mariana Trench. That subduction zone is known as Mariana Trench, the deepest trench in the world. उसके जस्ट ऊपर और एक ट्रेंच है, मिंडानो ट्रेंच. मिंडानो ट्रेंच का दूसरा नाम इज फिलीपींस ट्रेंच. और इस साल प्रीलिम्स का क्वेश्चन था विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज करेक्टली मैच्ड. फिलीपींस सिटी दिया था मिंडानो. कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं. इफ यू कैन नो मिंडानो इज अ ट्रेंच इन फिलीपींस, देन मिंडानो ऑब्वियसली विल बी द सिटी इन दिस फिलीपींस ओनली. सो यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट मैप बेस्ड क्वेश्चन जो है दे कम फ्रॉम द थियोरेटिकल पार्ट ऑफ ज्योग्राफी. ऐसा नहीं कि कुछ भी उठा के वो मैप में पूछेंगे. आई टोल्ड यू उनका फेवरेट एरिया इज वेस्ट एशिया. उनका फेवरेट एरिया इज द कंट्रीज सराउंडिंग द मेडिटेरेनियन सी, कैस्पियन सी एंड द ब्लैक सी वाला रीजन, बिकॉज ये हमेशा न्यूज़ में होता है. बिकॉज दिस इज व्हाट इज नोन एज एन हार्टलैंड रीजन इन ज्योग्राफी. ज्योग्राफिकल थियरीज कहती है इफ वन हु हैज कंट्रोल ओवर रिमलैंड कंट्रोल्स द हार्टलैंड, वन हु हैज कंट्रोल ओवर द हार्टलैंड कंट्रोल्स इंडिया, one who controls India controls the Indian Ocean, and one who controls Indian Ocean controls the world. So इसीलिए अफगानिस्तान, पर्शिया एक्सेट्रा, दिस इज व्हाट इज नोन एज एन हार्टलैंड थियरी. आपको नहीं करनी है वो, बट दिस इज इन पॉलिटिकल ज्योग्राफी का एक पार्ट. एंड देयरफॉर हार्टलैंड के ऊपर हिस्टोरिकली ईच एंड एवरी वन हैड ट्राइड टू कंट्रोल, राइट फ्रॉम हिटलर टिल रिसेंट ट्रम्प. Everyone wanted to control Russia. Russia is say ताकि they can control Afghanistan and Pakistan region. So that is what is the heartland theory. What is उसका एक ही part आता है GS में, what is known as geopolitics of Indian Ocean. We do not have this entire political geography, but this is very very interesting part. जिसमें geography का thought says कि see we are human beings, so we require resources. अगर आपने खाना नहीं खाया, if you do not study, if you do not grow, तो क्या होगा? Death, extinction. So geographical thought says that nations have limited resources, but the nation should grow. And if the nation has to grow, it has to capture the surrounding nations which are weak. Then only the nations will grow. So that is what China is doing. It is capture. अभी capture कैसे आप करोगे? पहले ज़माने में warfare से, what I told you today, the biggest power is economic. So through FDIs, through economic investment, चाहे it is in the one belt, one road policy, Silk Karakoram highway, या African investments in Africa. But what China has done, China is taking the control of the Indian Ocean by doing more and more investments in this region. China is not worried about India. इसलिए इट इज़ मेकिंग डैम्स इन हिमालयाज. दो इंडिया हैज़ ऑब्जेक्टेड कि आपने वहाँ पे डैम्स बनाए तो वी विल डाई बिकॉज ऑफ एन अर्थक्वेक. बट चाइना को क्या फ़र्क पड़ता है इफ़ इंडिया और पाकिस्तान गेट्स फ्लडेड. यू विल रियलाइज ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम इन इकोनॉमिक्स एक्सेट्रा कि चाइना के लिए रूल्स डू नॉट मैटर. वो सिर्फ अपनी फॉरेन पॉलिसी, WTO जितना हम भाव देते हैं इंडिया वाले, उतना चाइना डज नॉट. इट डज नॉट गिव अ थॉट अबाउट WTO. अगर WTO को मानना है तो चाइनीज़ रूल्स मानो, नहीं तो कोई WTO सब नहीं. द सेम थिंग अप्लाइज टू ईच एंड एवरी थिंग. दैट इज एंड one thing that we are facing the threat is China constructing big dams on river Brahmaputra. And उससे बहुत सारा फर्क पड़ेगा. That we'll do that later on. But one of the biggest part you will understand in today's lecture is when you construct big dams, India is going to face the threat of earthquakes and floods in the future. Hydroelectricity वो सब कम होगी, that is a different thing. But it is going to face the threat of floods and also droughts because dams can control the water. And again, a new geographical thought says, do not go for war. Destroy a country by controlling uska water resources. How do you destroy a country by controlling uska water resources? If you are an upstream country, अगर ये ऊपर की country है, during the monsoon season, release the water. नीचे का area will be flooded. During the drought season, stop the water. Once the water is stopped, there is food crisis. जैसे ही there is an fall of agriculture produce, there is inflation. जैसे ही there is an inflation, rise in the food prices, there is a civil disobedience या civil war type बहुत सारा. You can just manufacture this, and this is what we are also trying to do by Indus Water Treaty. But हमें bargaining capacity नहीं है. We do not know. That is why India is known as a soft power. We have to be a hard power in today's world. It cannot be. That is why आपको UPSC में question भी पूछा था that has the time come that India should renegotiate the Indus Water Treaty. All this are related. That is how to use the relief of an area for our own benefit. Because Himalayas जो हम traditional books में कहते हैं that Himalayas are the defense barriers. कहाँ पे है defense barriers? Sukhoi, Jaguar, missile. कल का न्यूज़पेपर, अब तो चाइना has tested an hypersonic which will enter the defense system of any country. So कहाँ पे है Himalaya as a barrier? We have to क्या करती है? How the missiles are there, ballistic missiles. They will go into the space and they will hit an object. So Himalaya से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता हो या ना हो. हाँ, कभी कभी कब फर्क पड़ता है? ग्राउंड पे अगर वॉर है तो, डोकला जैसा अगर इशू होता है तो ही फर्क पड़ता है. अदरवाइज हिमालयाज हैव लॉस्ट देयर इंपॉर्टेंस एज एन डिफेंस बैरियर. 1962 में ही लूज हो गया था उसका इंपॉर्टेंस. चाइना शोड दैट दे आर मोर पावरफुल दैन हिमालयाज. बट थैंकफुली ड्यू टू द हिमालयाज वी कुड स्टिल कंट्रोल द लॉसेस. एंड आई गेस यू नो 1962 वॉर का बैकग्राउंड, चाइना हैड ऑक्यूपाइड अरुणाचल प्रदेश. 5 दिन बाद उन्होंने खुद ने डिसाइड किया दे डू नॉट वांट दिस टेरिटरी एंड दे वेंट बैक. ऐसा नहीं कि हमने फिर से उसको जीत लिया. सो दे वेंट बैक एंड दे गेव द टेरिटरी बैक टू इंडिया. बट एक टेरिटरी में दे डिड नॉट वेंट बैक एंड दिस इज व्हाट इज द अक्साई चीन. एंड द लास्ट माइनर फॉल्ट, बाकी के माइनर फॉल्ट्स हम नहीं करेंगे. द लास्ट माइनर फॉल्ट which is missing in our books, atlas में नहीं होगा वो, that is the or the last minor plate that is missing in our book is the Burma plate or the Burmese plate, what is known as Burmese plate. कहाँ होगा वो? जहाँ पे बर्मा है. दैट इज व्हाट इज द बर्मीज प्लेट. म्यांमार वाला रीजन, दैट इज द बर्मीज प्लेट. क्यों मिसिंग है? बिकॉज वी स्टिल डू नॉट नो हाउ मेनी प्लेट्स आर प्रेजेंट. कब हमें पता लगता है दैट न्यू प्लेट्स आर देयर? जब कोई नेचुरल डिजास्टर होता है. एंड देन व्हेन वी स्टडी दैट एरिया, सो 2004 इंडियन ओशन सुनामी के बाद हमें पता चला देयर इज एन स्ट्रॉन्गर प्लेट नोन एज एन बर्मीज प्लेट. यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट आवर नॉलेज हियर इज वेरी वेरी लिमिटेड बिकॉज डेवलपमेंट उतना नहीं हुआ इन द टर्म्स ऑफ साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी दैट यू गो डाउन. आसमान में तो वी हैव गॉन बट वी हैव नॉट बीन एबल टू गो डाउन. सो बर्मीज प्लेट, So interaction of Indian plate and Burmese plate was responsible for 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Indian Ocean tsunami. And I guess you know the background of this Indian Ocean tsunami, one of the world's worst natural disasters. Why it is one of the world's worst natural disasters? Uska impact dekho. It was the energy released was equal to bursting of 1500 nuclear bombs. That much amount of energy was released. The rotation of the earth stopped for some seconds, microseconds. इसलिए the length of day was reduced for next 5 years. Earth wobbled on its axis. इतना ज़्यादा energy was released. Earth wobbled on its axis, मतलब Earth is going, revolving, Earth went up and down on its axis. Then the power was so powerful कि अंडमान and Nicobar Islands को धक्का दिया गया by 1.5 meter to the north. Means you imagine an entire island region is pushed to the north. It is not like pushing this table. There's so much amount of energy was released कि the entire Andaman and Nicobar Islands were moved to the north. And उसका impact था obviously that 1.5 lakh people died worldwide. That is an official figure. हमेशा official figure is into 2. Why? Because the people who have not been identified, जिनकी bodies नहीं मिली, जो properly जो critical है but they are not dead when they are declared are not considered dead. So even if after 20 years अगर body after 5 years अगर body मिल रही है, then only you will be declared as an dead. तब तक you are not declared as a dead. मतलब any person is not declared as an dead here. So that is why we say. But इसमें एक खासियत है 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami में a village in Tamil Nadu did not experience a single death, but surrounding villages in Tamil Nadu experienced all people died. रिसर्च किया गया, 2 टाइप के लोग थे, एक साइंटिफिक कम्युनिटी, एक भक्त कम्युनिटी. भक्त कम्युनिटी सेड कि वहाँ पे एक बहुत पुराना मंदिर है इसलिए नोबडी डाइड. सो उन्होंने एक थियरी बनाई. द साइंटिफिक कम्युनिटी सेड दैट बिकॉज ऑफ मैनग्रूव्स, दैट वाज द ओनली विलेज इन तमिलनाडु जहाँ पे मैनग्रूव्स वे आर नॉट डिस्टर्ब्ड एंड देयरफॉर नोबडी डाइड. सो that is what is the importance of mangroves, importance of coral reefs. Can you link how we are going to proceed? So इसलिए 2005 Disaster Management Act में we made mangroves as a first line of defense against cyclones and tsunamis, and therefore we have the mangrove system. Everything went on normally. Came the year 2017. Mangroves were declared as an wetland उसके बाद as per the Ramsar Convention etc. And came in the year 2017 जहाँ पे the government of India suddenly decided to withdraw mangroves from the wetland का definition. There was protest, कोर्ट में केस चल रही है and कोर्ट में केस चलेगी भी अगले 20 साल के लिए, so we should not worry about that. But nobody could understand why it was done. फिर 6 महीने बाद we realized why it was done, because 4.5 hectares, that is somewhere around 900 acre of mangroves were cleared in Mumbai for construction activities. So किसके lobby के अंदर? Builder lobby के अंदर the entire mangroves were destroyed. जैसे ही mangroves were cleared in Mumbai, 2018 has seen recurrence of worst floods in Mumbai. So थोड़ी भी बारिश मुंबई में अब आजकल पानी भर रहा है. And you understand how we are related to the, that is even a small change in the nature, which is का impact we do not know. So यहाँ पे importance आता है. Why I am discussing all this? Because 1-2 दिन के news में you must have read an article on community reserves या conservation reserves. So what are this community or conservation reserves? मैं इसको बहुत बाद में आऊँगा. I will touch this very later. So community reserves or the conservation reserves are the forested regions which are protected by the people. And in any country, the best way of protection is to giving it a religious importance. So हर गांव में, पहले तो इंडिया में हर गांव में होता था, अब नॉर्थ में नहीं है. इट विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द स्टेट ऑफ राजस्थान टू सम एक्सटेंट, कि हर गांव में एक गांव देवी होती थी. देयर वाज एन गांव का डाइटी, एंड उसके आसपास दैट वाज एन फॉरेस्टेड रीजन, एंड उसको हम डिस्टर्ब नहीं करते थे. So over the period, why is that? That is because the older people knew that what is the importance of environment and ecosystem. But आजकल क्या हो गया है? आजकल वो मंदिर तो बहुत पॉश बन गया. जो स्टोन की मूर्ति थी, वहाँ पे आ गई मार्बल की मूर्ति, पूरा उसको ह्यूमन फेस वो सब देके. अदरवाइज पहले के कम्युनिटी में वो स्टोन वॉज द गॉड. एंड सी वाई, बिकॉज वो स्टोन या वो मूर्ति किसकी है वो ज़्यादा इम्पॉर्टेंट नहीं था. वॉट वॉज इम्पॉर्टेंट है उसका इम्पैक्ट. बट दिस इज वॉट इज नोन एज एन संस्कृताइजेशन ऑफ रिलीजन. That is, everything has been replaced by the new gods. You can see the Sanskritization of religion if you can aware of the recent things of what is going on in the recent times. Ki in last 2 or 3 years, a famous photo of Lord Hanuman has come, but full of anger. इससे पहले वो फोटो नहीं था, और जनरली गाड़ियों के पीछे लगाया रहता है, saying that showing that हनुमान का एंग्री वाला फेस वाला फोटो. This is what is known as Sanskritization of religion. And you will have to connect all these dots. Means में फ़ायदा देगा, इंटरव्यू में फ़ायदा देगा, प्रीलिम्स में नहीं देगा. प्रीलिम्स इज जस्ट टेस्टिंग योर नॉलेज. बट जितना आपका ओपन एंडेड एंड जितना यू कैन लिंक इन द आंसर्स, ज्योग्राफी में नहीं, सोशल इश्यूज़ में. एंड क्यों हो रहा है ये सब? बिकॉज कंट्री इज गोइंग थ्रू द फेस ऑफ क्राइसिस, जहाँ पे द रियल प्रॉब्लम्स आर शैडोड बाय द रिलीजियस एंड कास्ट का प्रॉब्लम्स. एंड क्यों ये क्राइसिस से जा रहा है? लेट मी कम इन एग्रीकल्चर. इट इज़ गोइंग थ्रू द फेज ऑफ क्राइसिस बिकॉज देर आर नो जॉब्स इन अर्बन इंडिया एंड रूरल इंडिया इज़ इन डिस्ट्रेस. एंड उसका इफेक्ट आपको दिख रहा है जाट रिजर्वेशन, मराठा रिजर्वेशन और द अदर रिजर्वेशंस. लेट द एग्रीकल्चर इकोनॉमी कम बैक अगेन, then all this reservation का demands will go. Let the rural economy come back. But ये इतना proper discussion कहाँ पे मिलेगा? अगर ABP, Z, NDTV या रिपब्लिक टीवी देखोगे तो नहीं समझ में आएगा. For that you will have to look at the राज्यसभा टीवी only. The रिपब्लिक टीवी में तो आपको एंटी इंडियन डिक्लेयर कर दिया जाएगा for any the thing which you do not. So you will have to come to this conclusions and then you will have to write, because that is the real problem that is happening in. And फिर question आएगा the impact of globalization on Indian agriculture. Second question आएगा the recent farming crisis in India is not just economic crisis but also a crisis of social dimensions. Elaborate. So this is where you will have to go. though मैं टॉपिक से बहुत ज़्यादा भटक गया, but you should know that this is how. Because why मैं भटका नहीं, मैंने जानबूझ के ये आपको बताया आज, because I will do this in after 2 months. But ये issues कब चल रहे हैं? These issues are going on now. So you therefore be aware of these issues, be aware of the viewpoints which are coming up, because ये है मेंस के क्वेश्चंस अगले साल के. ये है मेंस के क्वेश्चन मे बी इस साल के भी, बट मोर इम्पॉर्टेंटली अगले साल के. यू कैन प्रेडिक्ट मेंस का क्वेश्चन. पिछले साल प्रेडिक्टेड था कि एसे ऑन एग्रीकल्चर विल कम, एंड डायरेक्टली ऐसे आया हाउ टू डबल द फार्मर्स इनकम बाय 2022. प्रीलिम्स का क्वेश्चंस कैन नॉट बी प्रेडिक्टेड, बट मेंस का क्वेश्चंस कैन बी प्रेडिक्टेड इन मेनी ऑफ द सब्जेक्ट्स. So this is what is the plates. Got an idea of the major plates and the minor plates. बार बार एटलस देखते रहो so that you will not get confused between the boundary. And इसमें से सबसे difficult question क्या हो सकता है? The सबसे difficult question is they can give you 2 plates and they will ask you whether it is convergent or divergent. So anyways we are going to do that. Now imagine you are sitting in a long bus, very long bus, and these two buses are going to do head-on collision. So when the two buses do head-on collision, इसका effect कहाँ पे दिखेगा? At the person who is standing in the front या पीछे? The person, सबसे ज़्यादा effect will be the person who is sitting on the front, because the two buses are doing head-on collision. Similarly, when the plates move, the effect of the plates, movement, uska effect, whether it is mountains, whether it is volcanoes, etc., is seen only at the boundary. And therefore, plate tectonics ka effect is seen at the boundary. So that bus is India, and if you are in the driver's seat, matlab you are in the state of Himalayas. If अगर आप पीछे फर्स्ट रो में या सेकंड रो में बैठे हो, मतलब यू आर इन द ग्रेट प्लेन्स, और अगर आप पीछे बैठे हो, मतलब इट इज एन एग्जांपल ऑफ एन पेनिनसुलर प्लाटू. Where we will use it? We'll use it in earthquakes. Zone 5, Zone 4, Zone 3 and Zone 1. Because the which are very very far away from the plate boundary, वहाँ पे the effects of volcanoes or earthquakes will not be seen. And therefore, why peninsular India is free from earthquakes? Because it is not at the boundary. इसकी दूसरी boundary कहाँ पे है? ऑस्ट्रेलिया के पास. And that boundary is nothing but the island of New Zealand. That is why New Zealand, that is why I told, in New Zealand is nothing but the mountains which are submerged below the sea, and uska peaks are coming up, and we call that country as a country of New Zealand. So you take down the next line. The movement of the plates, the movement of the plates, its effect, and the resultant outcome, is known as plate tectonics. Is known as plate tectonics. This outcome is seen only at the boundaries. This outcome is seen majorly at the boundaries. And there are three types of boundaries or plate margins. Three types of boundaries or plate margins. First, convergent or destructive plate margin. What happens in this? If these are the two plates, they will come near each other. The two plates will come near each other, and we will call this as an convergent or the destructive plate boundary. Divergent or constructive plate boundary. When the two plates move away from each other. And transform or conservative plate boundary. Transform or the conservative plate boundary when the two plates go past each other. When the two plates go past each other. when the two plates go past each other. That is, the plates are just moving across each other. They are neither coming, they are neither diverging. You can see इसमें नए words आए हैं, destructive, constructive and conservative. That is neither creation nor destruction. Now, can you tell me from yesterday's lecture why this is a constructive plate boundary? This is nothing but mid-oceanic ridges. So, क्या create हो रहा है? That is a creation of an Earth's crust. इसीलिए we will say that is the oceanic crust है, but it is created Earth's crust. Therefore, we will say it is a constructive plate boundary. क्या destroy हो रहा है at the trenches? Oceanic crust, and therefore we will see that it is an destructive plate boundary. Clear with this? Can I go to the next part? The constructive convergent plate boundary is of three types. So, we will start first with the convergent plate boundary. It is of three types. One, ocean continental convergence. That is, one part is oceanic, the other part is the continental plate, continental margin, and therefore we will call this as an ocean continental convergence. Example, American plate का western part is an example of an continent, while Pacific plate is an example of an oceanic plate. So, it is an example of an ocean continental convergence. Second type is the continental convergence. Continent convergence. Example, Asian plate is also continent, Indian plate is also an continent. So, this is an continent convergence. And the third is ocean convergence. Here we are not talking about the water, we are talking about the crust. Ocean convergence. हम आएंगे इस पे. So which will the most common type of convergence in तीनों में? Ocean continent convergence, because most of the plates का एक margin is oceanic while the other margin is continental. So just remember that this is the most common type of convergence. This is the most common type of convergence. Can I wrap this part? Don't write anything, understand what is happening. One plate is an example of an oceanic plate or continental plate. We will take this an example of an continental plate. The other plate is an example of an oceanic plate. ये डायग्राम आपको नहीं बनाना है. This is just for your understanding. These two plates are coming near each other. Why are these two plates coming near each other? These two plates are coming near each other because नीचे से the convectional currents are flowing in this direction. So this is the convectional current which is rising from magma and therefore it is bringing the two plates in the same direction, or this is the other kind of an convectional current. So what is there? Down there is an magma. Magma means nothing but asthenosphere. There is a magma downwards. What will happen in the, and upar iske, there is an ocean or water body here. Now what will happen when these two plates are colliding? When the two plates collide, when the two plates are colliding, obviously the movement is not smooth, so there are sediments, kuch tukde from these plates which fall, and when these two plates collide, touch each other, the margins of both the plates may get folded or wrinkled. When the margins of both the plates get folded, after that jo denser plate hai, it will subduct, it will go below. When it goes too much below, it will melt. So what happens in the first case? Give me a booklet, hardening, soft copy. So this is one plate, this is the other plate. When the two plates are colliding, sabse pehle the sediments of one plate will be, or both the plates may be folded. When the sediments are folded, the height of this sediments, kitna fold hoga, will depend upon how much energy is being put. And this sediments which are folded, we will call them as fold mountains. No doubt, because the force is so high, these are the highest mountains in the world. Example, Himalayas, Andes, Rockies, etc. After that, the other jo plate hai, which is pushing, jo plate jo denser hai, that plate will go below and it will subduct. And jahan pe subduction hoga, that part will be known as trenches. So can I say the fold mountains are always parallel to the trenches? Yes. That is why fold mountains in the world will be always parallel to the trenches. Now understand what is happening here. So these are the two plates. So initially the sediments of both the plates will be folded to give rise to the fold mountains. So these are the two plates. One plate is an example of an oceanic plate. But this plate also contains the sediments of oceanic plate also. Aisa nahi hai that only the sediments of the continental plate are folded. Sediments of both the oceanic and the continental plate are folded. After that, the oceanic plate goes deep inside the mantle. And when so we are keeping the shading as it is. Why I have shaded this portion also? To show that it consists of the sediments of both the oceanic and the continental plate. And what is there down? Down there is magma. And what is at the top? At the top there is an water body, or what we will call them as oceans. So these are what are known as the fold mountains, the highest mountains of the world. Now understand, when the plate goes too deep, generally 80 kilometers ke baad, deeper, the heat is such that this plate will melt, and because it will melt, yahan pe the amount of magma will increase. There will be large increase in the amount of magma. Whenever there is large increase in the amount of magma, the equilibrium has to be maintained, and therefore pressure will rise. As the pressure will rise, the magma will try to come up through the available cracks or through the available gaps. But this magma will not get the crack, and therefore it will collect here to such an extent कि over the period of time when the pressure becomes so high, it will explode the weakest part of a mountain. And which is the weakest part of a mountain? जहाँ पे area सबसे कम है. So कहाँ पे area सबसे कम है? At the top. And thus, as a result of this, we will have what we will call as an violent volcanic eruptions. We'll have violent volcanic eruptions in this region. So can I say in the regions जहाँ पे there is an ocean continent convergence, सबसे पहले there are fold mountains. Can I say there are oceanic trenches parallel to the fold mountains? Can I say there are violent volcanic eruptions, not the silent kind, but the violent kind of volcanic eruptions? And जब भी plate move करेगी, the earth will shake. Whenever the plate will collide, the earth will shake. Whenever after collision, the plate starts subducting. ये plate अगर थोड़ा भी move कर रहा है down, the upper part shakes. Whenever the large amount of magma or lava comes up, again the part will shake, and therefore there will be earthquakes. Suppose if this is how the other part of an boundary of this plate is. I am just making it to show you something here. Now suppose if the earthquake occurs inside the ocean water because of the shaking, epicenter कहीं पे भी हो सकता है. So over the period of time, what will happen? Energy will be released, and this energy will go towards the surface on all the directions, and we will call this as tsunami. But ये मत draw करना in the examination. This is just for your understanding. Plate is melting at this point. Because the plate is melting, magma का supply ज़्यादा हो रहा है. Because magma का supply ज़्यादा हो रहा है तो water vapor भी होता है magma में. हाँ, magma. Yes, and you cannot predict the direction of convectional currents. Convectional currents खुद से change भी होते हैं, इसलिए new plates are being created while the older plates become stabilized. So new plate can be created anywhere. पता चलेगा after 100 years कि इंडिया भी बीच में से टूट सकता है. So we do not know that. because the convectional currents का directions are changing regularly. That is why Appalachian जो मैंने कहा था, that was once a central point of two plates. Two plates had collided. Initially, Europe and Asia was different. When they collided, it resulted into Urals. So this is what, that is why the only thing that is permanent is change. So you should remember this line. कि उनकी हीट के ऊपर, एनर्जी विल ऑलवेज डिपेंड ऑन हीट. रोटेशन ऑफ द अर्थ, और वो समझ में नहीं आया अब तक वो किसके ऊपर डिपेंड करता है. वी जस्ट नो कि वो डिपेंड कर रहा है ऑन द रोटेशन ऑफ द अर्थ एंड द चेंजेस विच हैव ऑकर्ड ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, बट यू कैन नॉट प्रेडिक्ट दैट. वो नहीं पता चल रहा है क्यों हो रहा है. अगर वो पता चलेगा तो उस दिन हम अर्थ को एक प्रेडिक्ट कर पाएंगे. उस दिन हम प्रेडिक्ट कर पाएंगे कि कहाँ पे नया कॉन्टिनेंट बनेगा आज से 1000 साल बाद, बट वो हमें पता नहीं चला अभी. So that is the problem of earthquakes and tsunamis. Why you cannot predict? Because you do not understand the convectional process. फिर प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं होगा. You can save lot of lives अगर ये पता चला तो कि नेपाल में XYZ के दिन अर्थक्वेक हो रहा है, इस टाइम पे होगा, सो लोगों को निकाल लो. अब हमें क्या पता है, नेपाल में अर्थक्वेक होगा पर कब होगा ये नहीं पता, या नॉर्थ इंडिया में अर्थक्वेक होगा पर कब होगा ये नहीं पता. Himalayas is not an example of this. So I have finished this drawing this diagram. Now take down this point. Sediments of both the periods. कुछ sediments का मतलब क्या है? Some parts of this will break, some parts of this will break and वो fold हो जाएंगे, resulting into formation of fold mountains. पूरी plate नहीं fold होगी, सिर्फ upper portion sediments, टूटे हुए particles will break. इसलिए हिमालयाज में तुम्हें मिलेगा both the sediments of Asian plate as well as the Indian plate. Yes. So take down some of the main points. This is the most common type of collision. This is the most common type of collision. This is the most common type of collision which occurs due to the interaction of oceanic plate and the continental plate. Oceanic plate and the continental plate. The collision of these two plates. The collision of these two plates causes formation of sediments. क्यों formation of sediments? Due to collision, due to टूटना. Sediments मतलब टूटना. Over the period of time, these sediments are folded or you can use this word also, upwrapped to give rise to the highest mountains known as fold mountains. highest mountains known as fold mountains. To give rise to the highest mountains known as fold mountains. Generally, continent ocean collision gives rise to the Cordillera system. Gives rise to the continent ocean collision gives rise to Cordillera. एक ही statement है, एक ही word है ये, Cordillera system. In the bracket, long mountain chains parallel to each other. Long mountain chains parallel to each other. Long mountain chains parallel to each other. Cordillera मतलब long mountain chains, एक single mountain नहीं होता. There are long mountain chains which are parallel to each other. Example इसका, no need of writing example, but समझो what is this example. इंडिया में Great Himalayas, Middle Himalayas, Shivaliks. इसके अलग अलग peaks they are different, but this is an example of an Cordillera. ये सारा they are parallel to each other. This during the first collision, this during the second collision, this during the third collision. Collision अभी भी हो रहा है, so over the period of time there will be the fourth mountain system. So why Great Himalayas are of greater height? Because वो सबसे powerful collision था. Now the collision is so minute that even we do not realize that the collision is occurring. But collision हो रहा है. और जब भी ये collision होता है, इंडिया में there is an epicenter of an earthquake. So you remember, जब भी earthquake होता है इंडिया में, that means Indian plate has slightly gone below the Eurasian plate. So this is already occurring. That is why I said कि जहाँ हम खड़े हैं आज, after some 1 lakh years, so we do not have to worry about that, or somewhere around, depending upon the speed, there will be fourth parallel range of Himalayas. So ये पूरा area will be destroyed. So जो आज Great Plains है, they will be converted into the Himalayan region. And obviously they are densely populated, densely populated. So हमें पता है यहाँ क्या मिलेगा, मेरे यहाँ पेट्रोल मिलेगा future generation को. So but human beings will shift over the period of time. So that is why we have seen that how the humans have migrated from one place to another because of these changes. देखो हिमालय फॉर्म होने से पहले, it's just a very simple fact. हिमालय फॉर्म होने से पहले, humans originated in Africa, and from Africa they went towards the Eurasian region and different parts of the world. Now most of the people settled in the Central Asia, West Asia wala region during the earlier times. But during the Pleistocene Ice Age, that area went under glaciation. Pleistocene Ice Age recent hai. So the people started coming towards India, जो warmer regions था, because तब तक Himalayas बन चुके थे, or they were in the process of formation. So they started coming to the south, and when they came to the southern part, warmer regions, they first settled in Harappa Mohenjo-daro region. Now that region once upon a time was densely forested. That region was the region of very heavy rainfall. But because of changes in the climatic conditions, that region started becoming desert. And thus people then migrated into two branches. One branch went and settled जहाँ पे नई river originate हुई after that Saraswati river, and that was Ganga river system. Some people went and settled in peninsular India because पानी मिला Narmada river system. So this is how the human migration have occurred. Now the people who came from the Caspian Sea region, that was the region which was known as Caspian Sea. They first came and settled in a region and they called it as a Kashmir. After the Pleistocene Ice Age ka glaciation, when Kashmir also went under glaciation, these people further went down and settled near Ganga, and they called this region as Kashi. So the Caspian Sea, Kashmir and Kashi have a similar connotation. And remember, I am not talking about any religion, क्योंकि तब religions नहीं थे. Religions were made much later on. This is how human history has been evolved over the period of time. That is, we have migrated, and this will again occur यहाँ पे over the next generation will again migrate and go and settle in some other region. तब तक maybe नया continent will be formed. But in this all thing is associated with large scale death and destruction, because life has to be recycled. So जो unwanted traits है life के, जिसको आगे नहीं बढ़ाना है, उसको mass extinction. So all this is associated with mass extinction, and new life is formed over the period of time. I guess you are aware about the term mass extinction. So the next thing here, take down the point, next point. Following processes are associated with the continent-continent collision, or with the continent-oceanic collision. Following processes are associated with continent-oceanic collision. First, हमने लिखा है फोल्ड माउंटेन्स, पर फिर से लिखो फोल्ड माउंटेन्स or continental arcs. Fold mountains are also known as an continental arc. Why continental arc? Let us look at the shape of Rockies. This is how Rockies is. Let us look at the shape of Andes. अगर ये South America है, so this is the shape of Andes. Let us look at the shape of Alps. Atlas, Himalayas, all these are arc-like in shape, and therefore they are known as an continental arc. Next, violent volcanic eruptions. This is because the denser plate subducts. Subduct means pull in the mantle. Subduction का मतलब है pulled in the mantle. Subducts below the lighter plate. If it goes deeper, it melts. The magma increases. Increasing the pressure, which is released in the form of volcanic eruptions. Next point, the zone of subduction. ब्रैकेट में उसका दूसरा नाम लिखना. The zone of subduction, that is the Benioff zone. Why Benioff zone? Because it was the person Benioff who had discovered the zone of subduction. इसलिए नाम है Benioff zone. Zone of subduction, Benioff zone, are the deepest point on the earth. Known as trenches. You already know what is the other name for trenches? Ocean deeps. are known as trenches. Next point, the movement of the plates, comma, collision, and the rise of magma, plates, comma, collision, and the rise of magma, causes earthquakes. Hence, all the plate boundaries are prone to earthquakes. So this is all about the continent ocean collision. Any doubts here? Sure? अब इनके एग्जाम्पल्स. Can I say Rockies? Why Rockies? Due to the collision of Pacific and Juan de Fuca plate. With North American plate. So will there be volcanic eruption in Rockies? Yes, there will be volcanic eruption in Rockies. Second, Andes. Due to the collision of Nazca plate with South American plate. Third, Alps. Collision of Asian plate or Eurasian plate. With African plate. But this part of African plate has oceanic crust, which is known as Mediterranean Sea. जो पहले का is the nothing but the Tethys Sea, and therefore it is an ocean collision, ocean continent collision. जब Mediterranean Sea destroy हो जाएगा, because just like Indian plate, African plate will also destroy the Tethys. So then it will become continent collision. But अभी तक it is ocean continent collision. Why African plate तो is a continental plate, but why we say ocean continent collision? Because ऊपर का part is the old Tethys Sea, what is known as an Mediterranean Sea. कौन सा? African plate का part है, but oceanic part of an African plate, and उसके बाद is the continental part of an African plate. जैसे Indian plate also has some oceanic part and some continental part. Can I rub this diagram? Now you tell me सब plates में से which plate as per Wegener is reducing. अब हम Wegener को यहाँ पे apply करते हैं. कौन सा ocean has reduced? Pacific Ocean. The Panthalas has reduced to form Pacific Ocean. Why? Because western side देखो Pacific Ocean का, eastern side देखो Pacific Ocean का. It is being pushed by North and South American plate. Eastern side देखो Pacific Ocean का. वेस्टर्न साइड देखो पैसिफिक ओशन का, वो ईस्ट एंड वेस्ट इज द, now you consider you are in the center of Pacific and now uska eastern side will be the western part of the world, that is the North and South America. So you look at the eastern part of Pacific, it is being pushed by North and South America. If you look at the western part of the Pacific, Asia and India. So can I, our India is moving to the north, Asia hill nahi raha hai, Asia is there only. So can I say the Pacific Ocean is being compressed from all the sides? यही कहा था वैगनर ने भी, and this is the same thing plate tectonic theory is saying that the Pacific Ocean is being compressed from all the side. And इसीलिए ये सब examples इतने काम के नहीं है, ये तो सिर्फ to you can say warm up के लिए दिया था. These examples, the main example is circum-Pacific belt or the Pacific ring of fire. Why? What is this circum-Pacific belt? Asia, Indonesia, Australia, then New Zealand, North America and South America. So this region which surrounds the Pacific Ocean, because the Pacific Ocean is being compressed from all the sides, which starts from, you can say from New Zealand, goes along Indonesia, etc. region, then along the mountains of Russia, or also along the island arc of Japan, Philippines, then into the Rockies, and Rockies say into Andes. This region has the 60% of world's earthquakes and 60% of world's volcanoes. And कभी भी देखा इस region में तो you will see कि at least there is one volcanic eruption which is continuously going on. And इसीलिए this is known as the Pacific Ring of Fire. This is the tectonically most active region of the world, having the largest concentration of active volcanoes and the earthquakes. Why is it so? Because the central part of Pacific plate is being, this is the Pacific plate. This is also a convergent plate boundary, this is also convergent plate boundary, this is also convergent and this is also convergent. इसका effect हमें दिखता है as the mountains of Rockies, as the mountains of Andes, mountains of New Zealand, mountains of Japan, and there is a continuous volcanic eruptions going on in this region. Have you drawn this diagram? So draw this diagram and also draw what I am drawing here. Which one? This one? This one is also Indonesia, but it is an island which is known as Borneo. इंडोनेशिया, मलेशिया, ब्रुनई, ये तीनों कंट्रीज इस आइलैंड पे. These are some of the famous volcanoes in this region. Mount Cook, New Zealand. यहाँ पे भी ट्रेंचेस है पर हम सारे ट्रेंचेस नहीं कर रहे. We are doing the only important trench. Mount Krakatoa, Indonesia. Mount Krakatoa, Indonesia. The most dangerous volcano in the world is the Mount Krakatoa. Last time when it erupted, उसका sound was heard right up to USA and the stones were thrown up to Chennai. Sediments जो थे, they were thrown right up to Chennai. And it gave out so much dust कि अगले 20 साल के लिए there was less sunlight on the earth because the that all this volcanic material it gave out in the, but thankfully no death and destruction because it is located on the oceans in the Sunda Trench. Fir Mount Mayon, Philippines. It is a famous volcanic mountain. You already know this, Mount Fuji. UPSC ka favorite, Mount Shasta. Mount Cotopaxi, Ecuador, exactly on the equator. The highest point from the center of the earth is Mount Cotopaxi. We'll do ये सब बाद में करेंगे हम. And this is Mount Aconcagua. One of the highest volcanoes in the world is the Mount Aconcagua. ये एक डायग्राम है जो आपको याद रखना पड़ेगा because the same diagram will come in world distribution of volcanoes, the same diagram will come in the world distribution of earthquakes, and we will keep on coming to this diagram again and again. That is the Pacific Ring of Fire or the Circum-Pacific Belt. Now, if you ask me why is this belt, once you know this belt, writing the answers about the volcanoes, earthquakes is very easy. So, can I say it is nothing but the convergent plate boundary? Where the Pacific plate is going below or subducting below Indo-Australian plate, कहाँ पे it is subducting below the Indo-Australian plate? In this entire region. This is Indo-Australian plate. Subducting below Asian plate. Subducting below North and South American plates. And subducting below the minor, which plate? कहाँ पे? Mindanao and this is which plate? Minor Philippines plate. Can I continue? So why it is known as Pacific Ring of Fire? Because of continuous volcanic eruptions. And why volcanic eruptions? Why earthquakes? Why fold mountains? It is surrounded by fold mountains. It is because it is an example of an convergent plate boundary. Getting it? And फिर क्यों जापान पे इतने ज़्यादा क्वेश्चंस है यूपीएससी में? Because you will now look at this diagram and you will see Japan is 80% mountainous. Secondly, Japan is located exactly at the plate boundary. So, हर 3 minute बाद there is an earthquake and volcano. Thirdly, Japan has a colonial past or colonial history. In सबके बाद, Japan was bombed by nuclear bombs. And in सबके बाद, Japan is the only developed country of Asia. China is also not developed. So ये सब के बाद Japan has always come back. You can imagine what kind of the Japan का spirit या Japan का culture will be. We will always talk about the Japanese culture, etc. So this is what is the one of the reason कि Japan is 80% mountainous nation. Why? Because it is located exactly at the plate boundary. So Japan में हमेशा chances है of an earthquakes, हमेशा chances है of a tsunami. Because बड़ी प्लेट है वर्ल्ड की सबसे बड़ी, दैट इज़ द पैसिफिक प्लेट. बाकी तो ये कंट्रीज तो आर नॉट एन ओरिजिनल कंट्रीज, यहाँ पे पॉपुलेशन ही कम है, सो इससे फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता न्यूजीलैंड पे. बट दिस इज़ ऑल अबाउट, एंड इसीलिए क्वेश्चन आता है इन योर वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री इंडस्ट्रियल रिवोल्यूशन ऑफ जापान स्पेसिफिकली, और दे कैन आस्क यू अबाउट द कंडीशंस ऑफ जापान. यू कैन also know the difference in the Japanese culture कि after the World Cup match of Japan versus any other country, see if एक ही public था, that is all the people went away except for the Japanese. Japanese ने जाने से पहले अपना stadium clean किया and गए. So that is what is the Japanese culture. Japanese culture में schools में students are required to clean their own classroom. They don't have the peons etc. in the schools. So that is what is the Japanese culture, and this is reflected in the industrial revolution of Japan. Because आगे जाके हम जब पढ़ेंगे तो Japan is the only country in the world which does not have either iron ore neither coal, and still it is the center of heavy industries. Suzuki, Mitsubishi, all these heavy industries are located in Japan. उसके बाद है साउथ कोरिया. साउथ कोरिया की मेजर कंपनी Hyundai. Hyundai मैंने इसलिए नाम लिया बिकॉज Hyundai का साइड बिजनेस इज मेकिंग कार्स. सो Hyundai का प्रॉफिट डज नॉट कम फ्रॉम मेकिंग कार्स. Hyundai का प्रॉफिट कम्स फ्रॉम आयरन एंड स्टील एंड शिप बिल्डिंग. उनका साइड बिजनेस इज मेकिंग कार्स. जैसे IFB का साइड बिजनेस इज मेकिंग वॉशिंग मशीन्स, उनका मेजर बिजनेस इज फिशिंग इंडस्ट्री. जैसे मित्सुबिशी का साइड बिजनेस इज मेकिंग कार्स, उसका मेजर बिजनेस इज एग्रो फर्टिलाइजर इंडस्ट्री. सो इसलिए मित्सुबिशी पेन भी बनाता है, कार भी बनाता है और AC भी बनाता है, बट उसका मेजर बिजनेस इज मेकिंग फर्टिलाइजर्स. सो दिस इज, कैन आई रब दिस पार्ट? Next example is the mid-continental belt. It explains the formation of Alps and also Atlas. But ये mid-continental belt is for Alps, Atlas, except which country, which mountains? Except Himalayas. So I am making a diagram. Try if you can make the diagram. Europe, once you make this portion of Europe, यहाँ से शुरू करो, अफ्रीका, which is this continent? This is Africa. उसके बाद this is, there is an Asia over there. This is Europe, and this is Alps. And this mountains you already know are Atlas. Volcanoes होंगे इनमें? Yes. Why? Because this is the oceanic crust below the Mediterranean Sea. And have you drawn this diagram? Try making the diagram. Without diagrams, geography के GS में marks नहीं आएंगे. क्यों मार्क्स नहीं आएंगे? चाहे किसी ने भी कुछ कहा तो क्यों मार्क्स नहीं आएंगे? रिमेंबर, आप नहीं बनाओगे डायग्राम, कोई और बनाएगा डायग्राम. एंड दिस इज अ कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम. इन कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम आपकी पढ़ाई मैटर ही नहीं करती. आपका कॉम्पिटिशन कितना पढ़ाई कर रहा है उस हिसाब से आपको उतनी पढ़ाई करनी पड़ती है. दिस इज नॉट अ पासिंग एग्जाम. ये इतना 15 दिन पढ़ के गए रात भर, जाके एग्जाम लिखे और पास हो गए. नो, दिस इज एन कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम. अगर आपकी कॉम्पिटिशन साल भर पढ़ रही है 12 घंटे, तो आपको 12 घंटे पढ़ना पड़ेगा. कॉन्टिनेंट, मिडल ऑफ अ कॉन्टिनेंट, मिड कॉन्टिनेंटल बेल्ट, ये नाम है इस रीजन का. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय मिड? बीच में. किसके? कॉन्टिनेंट्स के. कौन से कॉन्टिनेंट्स है? एशिया एंड अफ्रीका, सॉरी, यूरेशिया एंड अफ्रीका. सो दैट इज वाई मिड कॉन्टिनेंटल बेल्ट. ऐसे नाम नहीं दिया है. यू कैन सी इट इज अ मिडल ऑफ अ कॉन्टिनेंट. सो नाम है. वाई, व्हाट इज योर नेम? तो ये जोग्राफर्स ने नाम दिया है. सो वाई टू क्वेश्चन इट? Can I continue? It explains the formation of Alps. It explains the formation of Alps. Some of the major volcanoes in the regions of Alps are, some of the major volcanoes in the regions of Alps are Mount Etna. In the regions of Alps are Mount Etna, Mount Vesuvius, and Mount Stromboli. Mount Stromboli. ये तीनों वॉल्केनोज कौन से कंट्री में लोकेटेड है? इन इटली. All these mountains are located in Italy. And those who have थोड़ा basic knowledge, इन तीनों में which is the most famous? Mount Stromboli. Why? ये इतना ज़्यादा फ्रिक्वेंटली इरप्ट होता है. दिस इज सो कॉमन वॉल्केनो कि इट इज नोन एज एन लाइट हाउस ऑफ मेडिटेरेनियन सी. Is known as an lighthouse of Mediterranean Sea. What do you mean by lighthouse? Near the coast there are towers which has big lights to show the ship that the coast is approaching. अब यहाँ पे this erupts so frequently कि वैसे ही light दिखता है because of an volcanic eruptions, and therefore it is known as an lighthouse of Mediterranean Sea. Fine with this? Any doubts? Now with this, open the map of Europe, political map. पॉलिटिकल, फिजिकल, कोई भी. So when we look at the Mediterranean Sea, look first in the political map, you will find Italy down. Mila Italy? So everyone, Italy? Near, what is the capital of Italy? Rome. Near Rome, if you look in the physical map, you will find a famous mountain out of all these three. Which is that? Mount Vesuvius. So Mount Vesuvius is near Rome. Mila Mount Vesuvius? Just have a generalized idea कि कहाँ पे Mount Vesuvius है. फिर जब आप revise करोगे, mark there in the atlas itself, so that whenever you will revise, atlas में है तो आपके दिमाग में वो सब आता रहेगा. Otherwise लिखोगे कहीं पे तो फिर से सब कुछ लिखना पड़ेगा. बट जब आप एटलास रिवाइज करोगे तो यू विल सी कि माउंट वेसुवियस हाँ यहाँ पे है. क्यों? बिकॉज इट इज लोकेटेड एट द प्लेट बाउंड्री. If you go down, one of the famous islands of Italy that has been many times a past year question also, that is the Sicily. Mila Sicily island of Italy, just Italy के नीचे. There is a famous island that is the Sicily. And you will find the other famous mountain there, that is the Mount Etna. Mount Etna is in Sicily. Mount Etna is on Sicily. There are some students जिनको एटलास गंदा करना अच्छा नहीं लगता, but I advise them कि मार्क करो एटलास पे ही. लास्ट मोमेंट में बहुत फ़ायदा होगा इन रिवीजन. Everything will be on the same place. अच्छा रख के कुछ क्या करोगे उसको? बेचना है आपको फिर से किसी को, तो फिर मार्क देयर ऑन द एटलस इटसेल्फ. Then there is Mount Stromboli, you won't find, but Mount Stromboli, it is located near Mount Etna. सिर्फ इतना याद रखना, Mount Stromboli is in Italy. You won't find there in this, near Etna. I'm asking you one GK का question because we are doing the Italy वाला region. Is near Rome, which is the famous country? It is located inside Italy. Vatican City. क्या खासियत है Vatican City की? What? It is the, no, geographical importance in physical geography. It is the smallest country and the least populous country in the world. Smallest and the least populous country of the world is Vatican City. Especially when I say about population, क्या खासियत है population? That is, the population is never allowed to cross 1,000. 999 is the maximum limit of population there in the Vatican City. 999. That is, you should remember, it is the least populous country. What? बढ़ गई तो पोप की ट्रांसफर. They don't give permit to go and settle in this region. USA का परमिट मिलना आसान है. यूरोप के किसी भी कंट्री का वीज़ा एंड परमिट जाके सेटल होना उधर आसान नहीं है. स्पेशली इन द नीदरलैंड्स एक्सेट्रा वाला रीजन, बिकॉज दे डोंट वांट एनीवन टू कम. रिसोर्सेस उनको पता है लिमिटेड है. यूएसए सिर्फ उन्हीं को परमिशन देता है जो उसकी इकोनॉमी को हेल्प करेंगे. दैट इज़ H1B वीज़ा. यू गो देयर, यू वर्क फॉर इंडियन इकोनॉमी, फॉर द यूरोपियन, फॉर द यूएस का इकोनॉमी. इसलिए हाईली स्किल्ड लेबरर्स, बिकॉज एक पॉपुलेशन की भी ज़रूरत है. ऐसा नहीं कि पॉपुलेशन इज़ ऑलवेज बैड. पॉपुलेशन अगर ज़्यादा है तो डिमांड ज़्यादा है. डिमांड फॉर द गुड्स, डिमांड्स अगर ज़्यादा है तो इंडस्ट्रीज़ वर्क, इंडस्ट्रीज़ विल एम्प्लॉय, एंड इंडस्ट्रीज़ इफ वर्क देन इकोनॉमी वर्क्स. सो व्हाट यूएसए डज, यूएसए मेक श्योर दैट एज, पर्टिकुलर एज ग्रुप के ही पीपल विल कम. बाकी आपको रहने की, सेटलमेंट की इजाज़त नहीं देते. दैट इज़ स्पेशली आफ्टर ट्रम्प तो ये बहुत ज़्यादा है. वाई? बिकॉज यू कम देयर, वर्क, कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट टू द इकोनॉमी, उसके बाद निकल जाओ 6 साल बाद, 5-6 साल बाद. वंस यू, एंड इफ़ यू आर नॉट स्किल्ड, यू आर नॉट रिक्वायर्ड. दैट इज़ व्हाट इज़ यूएस का. जापान में दे डिड नॉट रियलाइज दिस. सो व्हाट हैज़ हैपेंड इन जापान कि यंग पॉपुलेशन नहीं है, एंड ओल्ड पॉपुलेशन ज़्यादा है. सो आफ्टर 65 अगर पॉपुलेशन ज़्यादा है या आफ्टर 15 बिफोर 15 अगर पॉपुलेशन ज़्यादा है, देन what the country has to do, the country has to spend more in pension या in education. It is the 15 to 59 years which is the working population of a country. So we are an example of an working population of an country. And जितना ये working population ज़्यादा उतना better is for the country. Why? Because you will work, you will give tax, the industries will run, you will do hard work. उसके बाद अगर dependency बढ़ जाएगी, country does not want you actually. After 60-65 you are आप बोझ हो country पे. So yeah, before 15 country wants you because it will, if it nurtures you then only future of a country is good. और ये है ह्यूमन जोग्राफी. ह्यूमन जोग्राफी इज़ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग दिस वे बिकॉज जो हम 15 to 59 जो हम पॉपुलेशन की बात करेंगे दैट इज़ नोन एज डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड. व्हाट डू इज डिविडेंड? डिविडेंड मतलब जो फ़ायदा होता है. So that is demographic dividend, and therefore we say India has the great demographic dividend. Why? Because India has the largest amount of population between 15 to 59. But यही demographic dividend अब इंडिया के लिए बन रहा है demographic time bomb. Why? Because if the jobs are not there, it will be reflected in the terms of crimes, in the terms of social problems, social unrest, especially crimes. So I realize this. You look at the कावड़ियाज which are going on and see the age group जो कर रहे हैं. Is that the age group? ठीक है, मैं कहता हूँ even I am a religious person, but कब 60 साल के बाद करो जब पूरा पाप करके बाद में धो लो पाप आफ्टर द रिटायरमेंट. पर अभी तो ये वर्किंग एज है. यू शुड बी वर्किंग, अर्निंग मनी. यू शुड बी वर्किंग, स्टडिंग सो दैट यू कैन अर्न मनी लेटर ऑन. बिकॉज यू शुड ऑल्सो रियलाइज कि जितना आप साल यहाँ पे दे रहे हो, दिस आर ऑल्सो द बेस्ट ईयर्स ऑफ योर लाइफ. 30 साल के बाद, शादी के बाद कुछ लाइफ नहीं बचती. सो ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, सो वर्क ऑन दिस. शादी पे ज़्यादा कॉन्सेंट्रेट मत करना, कॉन्सेंट्रेट ऑन वर्किंग हियर. सो वी विल कम बैक टू द थर्ड एग्जाम्पल. Yes, that's what I was saying. Now come to Rockies. Come to Rockies. That is the North America. Come to Rockies मतलब North America. North America हमेशा यूरोप के बाद होगा. See the, remember the order in your atlas. Asia because we are an Asian country. उसके बाद यूरोप, उसके बाद North America. And कुछ atlas में it can be Africa also. I don't know the exact order अभी. So North America. In North America you can see Rockies properly. And वहाँ पे word देखा होगा Rocky Cordillera. Cordillera, this word will be written somewhere. So you can see here what is written as. So Cordillera is not written, but this, why Cordillera? जैसे हमारे पास Great Himalayas etc. है, you can see the mountains are different. Coast Range, Cascade Range, Rocky Mountains, Sierra Ranges, ये सारे हेड अलग अलग mountains which have been formed. And out of this, सबसे पहले is, which is the highest peak of the Rockies. Go to Alaska and you will see a famous mountain. McKinley is the highest peak of the Rockies. Mila, McKinley Mountains. McKinley is the highest peak of the Rockies. Lies in which country? Canada or USA? USA. It lies in USA because Alaska is a part of USA. McKinley. You will find McKinley here, Alaska. That is the highest peak of the Rockies. Very simple. कुछ याद रखने की ज़रूरत नहीं. If you can relate it to कि Coke is an US की कंपनी and इसलिए उसके वाटर बॉटल का नाम is Kinley. जैसे हमारे यहाँ पे अगर वाटर बॉटल है, फ्रेश वाटर है, उसका हिमालयन होगा नाम. सो द सेम इज, दैट इज वाई किनले की बॉटल पे वो माउंटेन्स भी बने हैं, बिकॉज इट हैज़ बीन टेकन फ्रॉम हियर. सो अभी याद रखना कि रॉकीज मतलब किनले, दैट इज द हाइएस्ट पीक. Then we'll come to this again and again, but if you come down here, you will find the famous, जो favorite है UPSC का, that is Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta. जहाँ पे कोस्ट रेंज लिखा है उसके पास you will find Mount Shasta. कोलंबिया प्लाटू, कोस्ट रेंज, कोलोराडो प्लाटू, वहाँ पे you will find Mount Shasta. Fine with this? These are the two map-based questions you will have to remember here. That is Mount Shasta, mountain se hi. Rockies, yes, it is a peak in Rockies. Mountain and peak ka difference. Mountain can be a entire, Himalaya is a mountain. Peak is Mount Everest, the highest peak of world. So McKinley is a peak, highest point. Continent-continent collision. इसका एग्जाम्पल इज हिमालयस. Before we write, understand the diagram. यहाँ पे both the plates are an example of an continental plate, and they both are coming near each other. So there is again a convergent plate boundary, but because both the plates are continental plate, can I say दोनों की density is more or less same? दोनों की density is more or less same. There is no greater difference in density, and since the density of both is same, there is no subduction. As there is no subduction, so there is no melting of one plate. As there is no melting of a plate, there is no magma, and therefore there is no volcanic eruption. And therefore Himalayas are the mountains which do not have volcanic eruption, because there is no subduction. So subduction नहीं है तो क्या है? There is abduction. Now what is abduction? कि the denser plate है, it just slides below the lighter plate. It does not go deeper. इसलिए मैं एक फिगर हमेशा बोल रहा था 80 kilometers. जब तक 80 kilometers the plate does not go, the heat is not sufficient to melt the plate. So Indian plate is there. It is slightly denser than the Eurasian plate, but it goes slightly beneath the Eurasian plate. It does not subduct, and because it does not subduct, we do not have trenches. And because we do not have trenches, इसीलिए गंगा रिवर उसको फिल कर पाई जहाँ पे आज हम खड़े हैं. अगर वो ये ट्रेंच होता तो this would have been very narrow and very deep, which would not have been filled by the river. Understanding this? As a result of this, what we see कि there is no melting of the Indian plate. It is just sliding beneath the Eurasian plate. And because there is no melting, remember the interior of Earth wala lecture. The average thickness of the crust is 35 kilometers. But below Himalayas, it is 35 plus 35, 70 kilometers. And it does not have volcanoes. Because जो भी magma है नीचे, it does not get enough space to escape. There is no addition of magma because the plate of India does not melt. And इसीलिए what we see in this region is extremely high mountains. There is a 2 kilometer का difference between the average height of Rockies and Himalayas. Why is this? This is because in the Himalayas we have a doubling up of the Earth's crust. Doubling means Indian plate ka crust and the Eurasian plate का crust, and therefore we do not have volcanoes. So as a result of this, जहाँ जहाँ continent collision है, remember one general law that there will not be any kind of an volcanic eruptions. Getting it? So draw the diagram like I am drawing. You can write magma also. Which one? This one, Tibetan Plateau. This is the Tibetan Plateau wala region, Himalayas, Great Plains. And why I said the way I am drawing, because you can see how we have drawn. We have drawn the southern side of the Himalayas being steeper. Southern side मतलब जिस side में India है. Northern side is not steep. This is an evidence कि Indian plate is pushing the Eurasian plate, because जिस side से push हो रहा है वो side ज़्यादा steep है. So climbing Himalayas from India is always difficult. From Nepal is always difficult. But entering India through China या through Pakistan is always comparatively less easy. Why? Because the northern side is gentle and southern side is steep. So जब भी आप मानसरोवर यात्रा जाते हो, so you go from China, you do not climb the Indian part. When people climb Mount Everest, they do it from the Chinese side, not from the Nepalese side. That is, Shipkila Pass is in one region through which where we enter the Tibetan Plateau and then go to the Mansarovar wala region. So, iska security implication bhi hai that cross-border terrorism in India is comparatively easier. Why? Because northern side is gentle as compared to the southern side. ठीक है? फिर rivers came, brought in the sediments, made this area very flat, Great Plains. जहाँ से Great Plains खत्म होते हैं, we find again peninsular India, and this is known as Vindhyas. जो edge है peninsular India का, it looks like a mountain, and we call this as Vindhyas. So you can take down. In the continent-continent collision, as both the plates are of similar densities, subduction does not take place. Subduction does not take place. Subduction does not take place. The plate which may be comparatively more denser, or have more velocity, so दोनों केस इंडिया फॉलो कर रहा है. इंडियन प्लेट इज कंपैरेटिवली मोर डेंसर बिकॉज पीछे ओशन ज़्यादा है. इंडियन प्लेट ही मूव कर रहा है, सो वेलोसिटी इज ऑल्सो दैट ऑफ एन इंडियन प्लेट, हैव मोर वेलोसिटी. स्लाइड्स beneath the lighter plate and lifts it upward. Slides beneath the lighter plate, lifting it upwards. In the bracket, abducts. Abduction मतलब नीचे जाना और उसको थोड़ा ऊपर उठाना. Hence in this regions there is doubling of Earth's crust. There is doubling of Earth's crust. Doubling of Earth's crust means great amount of thickness. You can see doubling of Earth's crust, and hence volcanoes are absent in continent-continent collision. Hence volcanoes are absent in continent-continent collision. But they have very high mountains and obviously earthquakes. Earthquakes and mountains होगा ही, volcanoes नहीं होगा, and क्या नहीं होगा is the trenches नहीं होंगे, बाकी there will be earthquakes and the so that explains the formation of Himalayas. We'll do that as a separate question tomorrow. That is how the Himalayas were formed. हाँ, इसलिए वो ट्रेंच नहीं बन रहा था, डिप्रेशन होता है. ट्रेंच हमेशा नैरो होता है. हाँ, सो इसको हम कहेंगे डिप्रेशन. है डिप्रेशन, आज भी नीचे है.